Hey everyone, just jumping on here because something at church hit me today the wrong way and I wanted to talk about it. And so I think there's this idea that goes around that if you're a Christian, if you've given your life to Jesus, if you're filling yourself with living water, if you're being obedient to Him, then you won't fall into certain mental health problems. And that is just not true, because I know a lot of Christians, they have given their life to Jesus, they're doing their best to follow Him, and even after they met Jesus, they developed something like an eating disorder, or they feel like self-harm, or they feel suicidal. And my church brought this up today, that if you're filling yourself with Jesus, that if you are seeking Him, then that'll just replace all of those things. And I'm like, there are Christians who literally start going through this stuff after they've given their life to Jesus, like on their journey. And not only have they started it after they've met Jesus, but perhaps it's part of God's will for them, the struggle and the suffering and the persevering, like it's a trial. But sometimes our faith doesn't replace all of that, and sometimes we need mental health help from it. Sometimes we need to seek out a therapist, or seek out doctors, or medication, or some sort of external help. And it just bothered me today. Like, I fill myself with Jesus, and every now and then I still feel a little suicidal. Like, I just want to be with God already. Like, this world has nothing for me. There's no hope. There's no reason for me to be here, so I just want to be with you, Jesus. Like, I literally think this stuff sometimes. And I would say that my relationship with Jesus makes me long to not be a part of this world. And I think that's something we all go through. We all fall in love with Jesus, and at a certain point of falling in love with Him, this world is we're just so beyond this world, right? We're not of this world. We're not meant to exist here forever. And I still go through that sometimes as like someone who loves Jesus very much, who knows Jesus, who does my best to seek Him every single day. I seek obedience. I pray on everything because I want Him to be Lord over my life. And I remember for a time wanting to hurt myself, like wanting to self-harm. And I tried it as a 13-year-old girl. I tried it and it felt good. Not because of anything spiritual. It was like being able to express internal pain on the outside, because I felt, and I feel like I'm gonna start tearing up here, but I felt for so many years that I was struggling and no one knew. Like, no one knew. And the reason you self-harm, the reason I at least fell into it was because I wanted, sorry, I almost dropped the phone. I'm a little shaky and upset right now. I'm gonna put the phone down. But yeah, I felt for the longest time just like I wanted to be seen, I wanted to be heard, I wanted to be taken seriously, and I did not receive the help I needed. I think when you are struggling for people to see the pain on the inside, on the outside, the last thing you need is for people to push you away. And and I thought, and I'm just thinking to myself, had I heard this message while I was going through that, I think it would have pushed me away from Jesus. It would have made me feel like I wasn't enough for Him, or I was unloved by Him. If someone had told me that my faith was the cure for that, and I just wasn't doing enough, I think I would have been really pushed away from the Christian faith. So I think these messages, we have to be super careful with how we're wording them, because they can push people away from God. Like, if you are telling someone who's going through an eating disorder your faith isn't enough, they're more likely, I feel like, to just give up their faith entirely, like it's a lost cause kind of thing, than actually seek Jesus further. You can't tell people that their faith is not enough, because it leaves bad fruit. Bad fruit pushes people away from Jesus. Good fruit leads them toward Him. leads them toward his kindness, his love, his heart. So when someone is going through an eating disorder or self-harm, they need to be listened to and be heard, because the number one thing they need people to know, I'm crying again, is that they're suffering on the inside and they want to be taken seriously on the outside. Like, that is why people do this stuff. It is not because their faith is enough, because a lot of Christians still struggle with this. And that's just something I wanted to speak out on tonight. Like, if you're struggling, if you're going through something hard and you need someone to hear you on the outside, the last thing you need is for someone to say your faith in Jesus is enough. You're not seeking him enough, because you can be seeking him with all your heart and still suffer and still want people to recognize that you're going through something. Like, even now, like, I have been through so much, and this channel is my way of expressing all the pain that I've held on the inside for so many years. And a lot of it, yeah, Jesus has healed, but I allowed the messages that told me he loved me, that he wanted to hear from me, that he was a good listener, that he would not validate what I was feeling as correct, but validate what I was feeling as something real. Like, what you're going through is real. It's not correct, obviously, to have an eating disorder, and it's not correct to want to self-harm. Like, those are symptoms of an even deeper mental health issue that you are struggling with, that I have experienced with in the past, and I just couldn't stand by and let this message go by today. It really bothered me hearing this message in church that I know would have pushed me away from Jesus had I heard it at a certain point in my life. And yeah, that's just what I wanted to say. If you are going through something that I mentioned in today's video and you want people to understand it, the best way to do that in front of both people and God is be transparent. Don't muddle your words. Don't try to soften them. Don't say unalive when you want to say dead. Like, just be honest, be transparent, and allow yourself to express emotion. I think if someone were to see me absolutely destroyed, like with tears pouring down my face and just trying to choke out those awful emotions that I was feeling, those really deep, dark things, I wonder sometimes if that would have been enough. You know, maybe I wouldn't have had to turn to self-harm to prove that I was hurting on the inside. Maybe if I had felt safe in a safe space enough to express everything that I was going through to someone else, someone who would listen well, who would be empathetic, who just wouldn't try to tell me I was wrong. Like, I'm not wrong for feeling this way. And I think something I tell people a lot in the comments on this channel, people who are like, I've been through the same thing, or I'm going through the same thing, I say it's okay to feel suicidal as long as you don't commit suicide. Like, it's okay to feel it for a period of time. And I think if someone had told me that when I was going through it, it would have made me feel like it was temporary, right? Like, it's okay to feel what you need to feel. Like, just because you want to die right now, just because you're thinking about that, doesn't mean you have to do it. You're allowed to feel that way. You're allowed to just feel that way as an emotion and as a trial you're going through. And all of that, like, you don't have to kill yourself, but you can still feel what you need to feel. And I just wish someone had told me that while I was going through it, because I would have been like, oh, it's like an emotion. It's like something temporary that I'm passing through. It's something that I can feel one day and not feel another day. It's not something I have to identify myself in, because for a long time, that was part of my identity. The way I thought of myself was suicidal, but I didn't realize that it was just an emotion that I needed to feel and get out and feel through. It wasn't a state of being. It was just an emotion. It was just a mental state that I was going through. And I really wish someone had described it that way to me at that time. But again, if you're telling people that their faith is enough, or they need to seek Jesus more and everything will be healed. Sometimes, yes, that happens. Like feeling loved and feeling like I had a purpose did so much healing for me. But I know for a lot of people, if you're going through something different, like an eating disorder, and even if you feel like God is in control and you can trust him, you still might be going through that eating disorder. Because I know a lot of eating disorders happen when we feel like we've lost control. And you might still feel that, and all of that faith all in one. What then for you? It doesn't make you feel helpless if you know that you're already at a good point with God, but you're still struggling through this. Like, what can help you otherwise? If a relationship with God is the cure for what you're going through and you're not healed, then how are you going to be healed? I feel like these are the questions that I would be going through. Go seek help, seek a therapist, seek professionals who are going to help you. Don't just rely on Anyway, that's just my piece on this today. I hope you all are having a wonderful Sunday, a wonderful weekend. Happy 4th of July. Happy belated 4th of July to all of you celebrating, and God bless.